Good afternoon. My name is Robert Stoller. I am a co-founder of the Anchorage Go Club in Anchorage, Alaska. It is Wednesday, September 25, 2013, and I am here at the studios of IMIG Audio Visual. Their business name, IMIG, the family name of the founder of the company. And we are going to make a video on teaching the game of Go. I have two purposes in making this video. First is to explain the basic rules of the game of Go to complete beginners who would like to learn to play the game but don't know how. But my main purpose is to teach teachers how to teach Go. Now, on one of the screens, you will see the program for the 29th United States Go Association Summer Go Congress, which concluded last month at Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma, Washington. For the first time ever, a feature of the program was the teacher's workshop. And this, for my personal consideration, was the high point of the Congress. And I really enjoyed this. We had something like 50 people who teach Go at various clubs all around the United States. And the idea of the workshop was to teach teachers how to teach. As much as I enjoyed that workshop, for me personally, the presentations missed the target. Too high and too low, too far left and too far right. The presentations were either too elementary, in my personal view, or too advanced. And what I had hoped was an opportunity to show how I teach and get some feedback on that. So I'm creating this DVD, and it is going to be sent to people at the Seattle Go Center when we're done in post-production. And I'm going to invite anybody who wants to critique how I do it to give me comments. And for anybody who thinks that I have some useful ideas on how to teach, they're welcome to adapt my ideas to their own presentation. Now, I have here in the studio one of the staff of IMIG Audiovisual, Angela, and she is going to assist me, and she is my student for today's presentation. So, Angela, just to establish some things for the record, you yourself have never played Go. Is that fair?
Yes.
And you have, however, played chess.
Yes.
Okay, now I usually start off with a few minutes of comparisons and contrasts between chess and Go, because in my experience, most of the people who have come to Go have come from the chess community. And there are some wonderful comparisons and contrasts. So for a couple of minutes, we're going to develop those. In chess, the armies start at full strength, and they whittle each other down in the course of play. In Go, the board starts empty, and the two forces build themselves up over time. In chess, one piece is more important than every other piece. That's the king. If you lose the king, you lose the game. In Go, all the stones are the same value. So you might make a mistake and lose a whole bunch of stones, but it's still possible to come back and win the game. For people who are learning chess, the hardest thing for beginners is getting their mind around the fact that there are 6 different kinds of pieces, and they all hop around in 6 different kinds of ways: king, queen, bishop, knight, rook, and pawn. In Go, you don't have any of those problems to worry about, because once the stones are placed on the board, they don't hop around at all. They stay where they are, and the only time they move is if they're captured, in which case they are removed. In chess, the object of the game is to checkmate the king. When the king is cornered and cannot move without being captured, that's the end of the game. In Go, the concept is completely different. The idea is territory. Now, territory is something of an abstract concept, and I've tried to create a word image, a metaphor, to develop that idea. So think of a huge island, Greenland, say, without any ice or snow or people, a large, uninhabited island, and 2 boatloads of refugees, represented by the bowl with the white stones and the bowl with the black stones, come to this island from opposite sides, and they want to colonize it. Whoever controls the greater part of the island wins the game. That's what it's about. It's control of this island. Now, the island is very huge relative to what the forces can do by way of setting up colonies. So each side acknowledges that with competent play, my opponent is going to control some part of this island. I can't have it all for myself. Whoever has the greater part of the island wins the game. That's what it's about. Now, in chess, capturing your opponent's pieces can help you win the game. And in Go, capturing your opponent's stones can help you win the game. So you have to know about capturing, and that's where I start the basics for the rules of the game. In chess, the pieces are placed on the intersections of the lines, or excuse me, in the squares. And if I have a white bishop, it's in the square. But in Go, the stones are placed on the intersections of the lines. Now, a stone on the board has points that radiate out from it. And these points that radiate immediately out are called liberties or breathing points. And in the open part of the board, there are 4 of them. Okay, so the stone on the board has 4 points that radiate out. At the edge of the board, there are only 3, and in the corner, there are 2. These points that radiate out are called liberties or breathing points. Now, in chess, captures are made in one fell swoop. So here's my white bishop, and here's a black rook. And if the rook wants to capture the bishop, the rook occupies the bishop's square and removes it from the board all in one move. In Go, it takes longer to capture. The concept is smothering. As long as any of these liberties for the white stone is unoccupied, that white stone can stay on the board. But in order to capture, I'm going to set up a little sample position. If we get to this position here, and it's black's turn, and black wants to capture the white stone, here's how black does it. By making this placement, that now has occupied the last available white liberty. The white stone is thereby smothered, and it is removed from the board and placed in a lid to be held as a prisoner by black until the end of the game. Now, it's possible to make formations with your stones, and the formations are done by stones sharing their breathing points. So a formation that looks like this, these 2 black stones are a formation. They are a formation because this point is a breathing point for that stone, and this point here is a breathing point for the other stone. And as a unit, these 2 stones now share 6 liberties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now let's see how white can capture the 2 black stones. I'm going to set up a position, and I'm going to let you see if you can solve it. Don't worry if you make a mistake. Mistakes are perfectly okay. I will show you how to do this, but I will let you solve it first. It's white's turn. White to play is able to capture the black stones. Based on what I've told you, show me how. That is exactly correct. And what are you going to do with those 2 black stones? You take them off the board. Exactly right. Now, it is possible to arrange your stones in formations that cannot be captured under any circumstance whatsoever. And such formations have a special property. Now, the metaphor that we use in English comes from the Japanese terminology, and the Japanese would say a formation with 2 eyes. Their word is me. Phonetically in English, we would spell it M-E with a long mark over the E. We're going to build up the idea of 2 by looking first at a formation that has only 1 eye. And we're going to see why a formation with 1 eye is not secure. And then we're going to look at a formation with 2 eyes and see why it can never be captured. So let's see a 1-eye formation. All of our white stones are related with reference to their breathing points. They are one complete integrated group. As a complete integrated group, these stones have a total of 13 liberties. Let's see where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, this 13th point has a quality different from the other 12. These 12 liberties here are on the outside. They are tangential to the white stones. But this liberty in here is completely enclosed by the white stones. So an eye is a point or a group of points that is completely enclosed by a perimeter of stones of one color. This formation is not secure. Over time, it's possible for the black stones to completely surround the 12 outside liberties. Now, as long as these white stones have that available liberty, they stay on the board. But in this position, anytime black wishes to capture these white stones, black is now permitted to do so. And here's how it's done. When black makes this placement, that smothers the white stones. The physics, if you will, implicit in this position is that these white stones are immediately gone from the board. Now, I'm old and slow, and it's going to take me a few minutes to get those white stones off the board. But the important part here is, as far as the game is concerned, they're already gone. And in the negative space that emerges when we take these white stones off, this black stone has 4 liberties to breathe with. And that's why this capture is permitted. And by the way, now we're going to see an elementary example of what territory looks like. This perimeter of black stones now encloses a territory that consists of 8 points. And let's see where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Notice I didn't count this point. You get credit for what you surround, not for what you occupy. So this capture, and here are the 4 points that emerged as the breathing points or liberties for that black stone. And this capture is worth in total 16 points for black. Now, how did I get 16? Plus 8 in black's asset column, if you will, for 8 points of territory. In addition, black has 8 white prisoners. And these white prisoners at the end of a game, and we're going to be playing a game in a few more minutes, are used to fill in, to reduce the count of territory that white controls. So, if it's a cold day in February, and at 2 in the afternoon the temperature is 8 above 0, and at 11 at night the temperature is dropped to 8 below 0, how far did the temperature fall? 16 degrees, right? Okay, one-eye formation, not safe, capturable in that dynamic. Now we're going to see a formation that has 2 eyes and see why it can never be captured. Yes?
Do you write the points down, or do you count it at the end so you can remember how many points you just got?
You count at the end, and we are going to see how that's done when we play a game after we review the rules. One of the problems with the rules, and in my personal opinion, one of the problems of most of the basic instruction that's available in Go is the rules don't tell you what people really care about, which is figuring out who won and by how much. And in order to answer those questions, you actually have to play a game. In my life, it took me 9 years to find somebody who could answer those questions for me after I found a book that purported to teach the basics of the game. Okay, here's our formation. 1 eye, 2nd eye. The Koreans have another metaphor, and their metaphor is probably a little easier to grasp. They would say a house with 2 separate rooms, 1 room and a 2nd room. Now we're going to surround this black formation with white stones, and you start on your side, and I'll start on mine. So this is the same exercise that we just did. Excellent. Good. Good, and we just need this one last one. Okay, all the outside liberties have now been surrounded. And it's now white's turn. And white would like, if possible, to capture the black stones, but won't be able to do so. How come? Can white play here? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. How come? There is no way for that white stone to breathe. And just as in chess you are not permitted to move your king into check, in Go you're not permitted to make a suicide play. For the exact same reason, white may not make a placement over there. And the only way white could conceivably capture the black stones is if white were permitted to drop 2 stones on the same turn. But it turns out you're not allowed to do that. On each turn, you are permitted to place 1 stone. You are not required to place any, but you may not place more than 1. And so the physics that emerge from the rule that you can only place 1 stone at a time, combined with the rule that you may not make a suicide placement, is that a formation that has 2 separate eyes can never, ever be captured. And we say of such formations that they are alive. Now, if we modify this formation just a little bit, now it's very easy to capture. This is a formation that has 1 eye with 2 points in it, as opposed to over here where we have 2 distinct eyes. there is a simple technique for capturing this formation, and it looks like this. White is now permitted to make this placement. This is called a throw-in. Notice this white stone has a liberty over here. And if black does nothing else, on white's next turn, white may play there, and that immediately smothers all the black stones. They'll be off the board. But black says, well, hold on a second, Mr. Stoller. I think you missed something. What if I capture your white stone? That's a perfectly permissible play by black. But notice, we're now back to our formation that we just looked at with only one liberty. And now white's permitted to play back in here, and it captures the whole group. So a formation that has two separate eyes can never be captured. A formation that has one eye with 2 points can easily be captured in the technique called throw-in. Black captures, and white comes back and captures the whole group. Now there's only one more rule, and then we're going to play a game, because as we discussed, the rules don't tell you how to figure who won and by how much. The rules also don't immediately tell you or easily tell you how the game ends. Okay, we're going to pick up the extraneous stones, and now we're going to look at the one special rule. Now, for people who teach Go, there's a big debate about whether this rule should be taught to beginners at all, because it does not come up often in beginners' initial games. But my philosophy is the rule should be taught because it's an integral part of the game. We know the rule as Ko, phonetically in English spelled K-O. It's a Buddhist idea, and it means eternity, and we'll see the implications of that in a second. A formation that happens all the time in practical play is this little diamond shape of stones. And this happens so often that the Japanese gave it its own little name, and their word for this formation is panuki, phonetically in English, P-O-N-N-U-K-I. Now, it frequently happens that one of the stones in the panuki is under attack. Okay, here is our formation with the panuki stone under attack. I want you to focus on this black stone here. How many unoccupied liberties does that black stone have? Exactly right, 1. And white can capture it. Show me how. That is exactly right. What are you going to do with that black stone? Right. Everything you have done to this moment is perfectly correct. Now I want you to focus on that white stone. How many unoccupied liberties does that white stone have? Right, only 1. And if we did not otherwise have a rule to deal with the game would grind to a halt right here, because black would capture, and then white would capture, and then black would capture, and then white would capture, and we would go back and forth for eternity, hence Ko, which means eternity. So the people who invented this game, turns out they were the Chinese, observed this, and they said, we need to have a rule to keep the game going because this formation is too easy to get to, and we don't want the game to grind to a halt right here. It would be of no consequence as a game if it could. So here is how the rule of Ko works in practice. White made the first capture, and that's the black stone that was captured. Now it's black's turn. On black's next turn, black must play, if black chooses to play at all, somewhere on the board, anywhere on the board, other than capturing back. So let's say black plays over here. Now it's white's turn. White may, if white chooses, make this placement in here. If white chooses to do this, this is called filling the Ko. And the consequence of filling the Ko is these 5 white stones are now one integrated unit. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. There are no eyes in this formation. This is not a living formation in the way we just described the 2-eye formation. But if black wanted to do nothing but capture those white stones, it would take black at least 5 placements to capture those white stones. And in fact, in practical play, it would take more because there are some tricky moves that white has. So with, to use a chess metaphor, 5 tempi, it is possible for white to link these 5 stones up with other white stones yet to be placed on the board and make a formation that has 2 eyes. But that's merely a possibility, not a guarantee. And filling the Ko is merely an alternative, not a requirement. And white may say, well, you know, black has got a pioneer in this corner, and I had plans to build a colony in this corner. Rather than fill the co, I think what I want to do is get a pioneer myself into this corner. So, to review the bidding, white made the first capture. Black has played out of co. White has played out of co, and now it's black's turn. Now black is permitted to capture back. And now it's white's turn. On white's next turn, white may not capture back. That's what keeps this from degenerating into endless captures and recaptures. White must play somewhere on the board, anywhere on the board, other than capturing back on the next turn. And let's say white plays over here. Now it's black's turn. Black may, if black chooses, fill the co. The consequence is these 5 stones are a unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. No eyes, it's not a living formation. But with 5 liberties, there's time, possibly, for black to link these stones up with other stones and make a living formation. But as with white, black is not required to fill the co. And black may say, I'm worried now, white is ganging up on my pioneer. I think what I choose to do is reinforce my pioneer stone rather than fill the co. White has played out of co, black has played out of co, and now it's white's turn again. And now white is permitted to capture back. And that is the syncopated rhythm of a co-fight. Now, we have game records that go back at least 400 or 500 years, famous games. And some of the famous games, there have been co-battles that go back and forth for over 100 moves. One of the features of Go, which distinguishes it from chess, is the tactics and the strategies associated with co-battles. There is nothing to compare in chess with a co-fight. Now, those are all the rules. That's it. But what the rules don't tell you, as we